Hey guys, Hunter Davis with Impact Youth. Thanks for joining us for our expository study of the book of James. This is our next lesson, which is James 5, 1 through 6. So if you haven't got the context going through the rest of the book of James, I encourage you to do that. But today we're going to be looking at materialism, and we're going to see that James calls out the rich man. He says, hey, rich man, mourn, weep, and some things like that. It's kind of weird. Like, and why is he calling them to, mourn and weep and things like that? And we're going to see that the mindset of them was materialistic. They put things above God, or material possessions above spiritual possessions. And we do that a lot too. And so we're going to look at this today. We're going to hopefully make some applications on James 1, 5 through 6. Thanks for joining us. Remember, subscribe if you want to keep on getting these expository studies through the book of James. Thanks. Have a good one. We are talking about materialism, as was noted by Gallon and Scott. So let's go ahead and start reading. And then they already prayed, so we'll just go right into it. Okay, James chapter 5, we'll start in verse 1. It says, Come now, you rich, weep and howl for your miseries, which are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted your garments and have become moth-eaten. Your gold and your silver have rusted, and their rust will be witness against you, and they will consume your flesh like fire. It is in the last days that you have stored up your treasure. Behold, the pay of the laborers who mowed your fields and which have been withheld by you cries out against you. And the outcry of those who did this harvesting has reached the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath. You have lived in luxury on the earth and have led a life of wanton pleasure. You have fattened your own hearts for a day of slaughter, and you have condemned and put to death the righteous man. He has not resisted you. All right, so today we're talking about materialism, okay, and basically materialism is putting stuff, okay, or putting material stuff, material stuff, or just like stuff, money, stuff like that, above spiritual stuff, okay? Putting material stuff above spiritual stuff is a very basic definition of materialism. And hopefully we see today, by what James is writing, not to store up our treasures here, but rather to store up our treasures in heaven. Because a lot of times with materialism we do that. The story of the knife, you guys are kind of close-ish, but not really. So that's my knife. I got it. It's actually a present from Jillian, okay, and Reese. Okay, they gave me a gift card this one time, and I went and bought this knife. And it was a $170 knife, not $200. Okay, but I put $200 because it's close, and I like rounding up. It makes it seem a lot bigger, right? So it's like a $170 knife. Okay, and so I let somebody borrow it. Okay, one time, and it was like for just a couple seconds, and they lost it, like immediately. I don't know. It fell out of their pocket or something. They lost it immediately. And so I was pretty upset, okay? And I really liked the knife, okay? Obviously, I just got it. It was $170. It's a sweet knife. So it took everything in me to be okay with it. You know what I'm saying? And so I was finally okay with it. And then I went back out to look for it one day, and I found it, okay? So I still have it. So that was good. But we all like stuff, right? Yeah. We all like things. We all like money. Maybe you don't like knives, okay? But maybe there is something that you do like, and we all like stuff, okay? Today, James talks about the sin and the danger that comes with it of materialism, or putting stuff before God, or putting stuff before spiritual things, material stuff. When we do this, okay, when we practice materialism, or we put stuff above spiritual things, we lose out, okay? And we're going to see that. We lose out on stuff. And not only that, it also leads to other sins. Okay, and that's what James says here. Two sins specifically that he talks to that materialism leads to. And sometimes we really don't understand like the gravity or the weight of the sin of materialism. Like we love stuff and we put it above God, and we don't really think that it's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so as we get into this, okay, we're going to see these things that James talks about materialism. First one is, okay, that's the definition of materialism. Sorry. I said that earlier, but that's the definition of materialism, is putting things of the world before things of God. Okay, very specific or general definition. First thing we see, materialism leads to loss. Okay, this is verse 1 through 3, so look at it again with me. It says, Come now, rich, you rich, weep and howl for your miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, your garments have become moth-eaten, your gold and your silver have rusted, and the rust will be a witness against you, and will consume your flesh like fire. It is in the last days that you have stored these things up. Okay, so I have you guys have seen this picture. I have an illustration for you guys. In a couple weeks, we're going to have Jeopardy. Okay, and so there are illustrations on Jeopardy. There's a lot of illustrations today, so be keeping them in the back of your mind what they mean. Okay, you guys have seen the picture of Tiger. This is my puppy. Okay, and he was a sweet dog. Okay, some girl in a youth group gave him to me, and he was like a purebred pit bull, and so he was worth a lot of money. And I had him for like a year, and then he died of a disease called parvo. It's a puppy disease, basically. So it was really sad. And as much as I don't want to admit it, it made me sad, okay, because I actually like this dog. But loss is hard, okay? Loss is hard, even if it's stuff, okay? Even if it's not like an animal or a loved one. When you lose stuff, when I lost my knife, when we lose money, if you've ever lost money, or when you lose things that you really like, it's hard, right? Okay, well, the more we get into materialism, the more we actually lose. Okay, and that's what he's talking about here in 2 and 3. He's not saying that riches are bad. Okay, when he says, "Come now, you rich, weep and howl," because there's a reason they're weeping and howling. Why is that? It's in verse 2. He says, "The riches have rotted your garments, and your garments have become moth-eaten. Your gold and your silver have rusted, and their rust will be a witness against you." So when we look at stuff, there's two things that naturally happen to take that stuff away from us. Okay, there's two things that happen that naturally happen to that stuff's going to be taken from us. The first thing that happens is natural decay. Okay, natural decay. When he says like it's going to rust, your clothes are going to be eaten by moths, your riches are rotted. All those things are things that just naturally happen. Okay, stuff wears out, stuff breaks. Okay, and when we put stuff first, that stuff we put first eventually fades away. You know what I mean? So if we're putting these things first in our life, if we're putting stuff first, it's going to get old and we're going to lose it. Okay? If that makes sense to you guys. I have an example of this. This is, how many of you guys know what this is? Yeah, it's the old snake game, the really old snake game. There was a time that I remember, okay, when a phone like this and this snake game was literally like the coolest thing on the planet. Okay, now it's old and it's worn out. We have that switch over there and we play, what's the game? I just lost my train of thought. Smash Bros on it, right? This is what it used to look like when I played it, okay, on Nintendo 64. Okay, but it's not even worth playing anymore. The controllers barely even work, right? Because stuff wears out, it gets outdated, it gets old, it fades away. Okay, and Jesus says the same thing about our stuff. This is Matthew 6. Okay, look at it. It says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where the moth and the rust destroy." Go back to James 5. He says, "The moths have eaten your clothes, and gold and silver have rusted." Same thing, right? And where thieves break in and steal. "But store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." This is a super famous passage, but Jesus is saying, hey, natural decay happens. Okay, you lose stuff because stuff gets old. So if you're putting that stuff first, you're naturally going to lose out on it. And the second thing that you're going to lose out on is what Jesus talks about here in the second part of this, and it's judgment. Okay, so natural decay is the first thing, and then judgment or rewards, if you want to put it that way. If you look at the end of verse 3 in James chapter 5, okay, he says, and it will consume your flesh like fire. It is in the last days that you have stored up your treasure. Okay, it is in the last days you store your treasure. So natural decay, obviously, we lose stuff for that, but we also lose because in the end, what's going to happen to everything?
Just gonna end it.
Yeah, it's all going to burn up. Okay, Peter talks about this in 2 Peter 3:11 and 12. He says the whole world's going to burn before we get the new heaven and the new earth. It died. And then in Zechariah, if you guys want to do some more studying, let me look at the verse real quick. Zechariah, I think it's 2:14, but you guys can look it up. And in Zechariah, he talks about the end days and how all the people who are attacking Jerusalem are, all their stuff is going to be piled up. Okay? They're going to have all this stuff because they're going to be attacking, and all this stuff's going to get piled up in this big pile, and the earth's going to burn, and so all this stuff is going to go away. Right? The things of the world don't last, and you guys all know this, right? So I'm not telling you anything new, but a lot of times we get in our minds this materialistic attitude of putting stuff before people or putting stuff before God. Okay, like for example, if somebody breaks something that you have, it's really easy to get mad at them, right? What are you doing there? You're putting stuff before people, right? Okay, you're putting stuff before people, and ultimately when you do that, you put stuff before God. Right? So you're putting stuff before people and stuff before God. Okay, naturally, our stuff, we lose our stuff. Okay? And stuff gets broken, it wears out, and in the end, it all burns up. And then also, back to the verse in Matthew, you lose out on rewards. If you're storing up earthly things, are you storing up heavenly things? Usually not, right? That doesn't mean we can't have money. This morning, JB will talk about it. There's 2 wealthy men who were saved and who were buried Jesus and stuff. Like, it wasn't wrong that they're wealthy. But if our focus and our goal is to store up earthly things, then our focus and our goal is naturally not to store up heavenly things. Does that make sense? Okay, so we want that to be our goal so that way we don't lose out on our stuff. Okay, because do heavenly treasures fade away?
Yes.
No.
Wait.
Heavenly treasures don't fade away, right? And so that's why if we store up those, we're not going to lose out. Okay, the second one.
What would the treasure be? What would it be?
It'd be heavenly rewards. So if you do like in Matthew chapter 6, let me turn there real quick. In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus says, hey, if you pray in secret to your Father with the right heart attitude, is what he's saying. If you pray that way, your Father's going to reward you for that. Okay, we don't know the specifics of what every reward is, but I know there's at least, 7 crowns that are rewards, and there's some other stuff like that. But let's see. Talk about giving in Matthew 6, verse 6. It says, or 6 verse 5, sorry. When you pray, you are not to be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues on the street corners so that they may be seen by men. Truly I say to you, they have already received their reward in full. That's an earthly reward, right? They've received the praise of mankind. That's an earthly reward. Will that reward last? No, it will not. Okay, in verse 4, it talks about rewarding for giving. The verse right before that says, so that your giving will be will be in secret, and your Father who sees it, what you've done in secret, will reward you. So God's going to reward you for something there, and those rewards last. Okay, so second thing, materialism leads to cheating. Okay, if we put stuff first, okay, it's ultimately going to lead to cheating. Look at verse 4. He says, behold, the pay of your laborers who mowed your fields and which has been withheld by you cries out against you, and the outcry of those who did the harvesting has reached the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath. So what's he saying in verse 4? He's saying, hey, these rich people, okay, the reason they're rich is they're not being blessed by God and given riches. They're literally cheating their workers. So Molly and Gatlin mow lawns, right? Okay, so that's what he's saying. These guys come in and mow your fields, but then you don't get paid for it. Okay, Sky works for me sometimes. Okay, he does trash. So what if I was like, dude, I'm going to pay you at the end of the month. Okay, I'm going to pay you at the end of the month. And he does trash for a month, and I'm like, dude, I just don't have the money to pay you. Sorry. That's cheating him, right? That's cheating him, right? I mean, that's how these guys were getting rich. Okay, that's how these men were getting rich, is they were cheating other people. And really, when we put stuff, when we put our grades or our things or our money or our time, our popularity, any of these things above God, then why would we not cheat? Right? Because God's the one who says not to cheat. So if we put the stuff above God, we're going to cheat. Right? And that shows a little bit more of the gravity of this sin. And ultimately, we're going to see even more heavy stuff as we go on. But this can be anything. I mean, it can be cheating on your taxes. Okay, you guys don't do taxes, but a lot of people cheat on their taxes. Okay, that's putting money above God. Okay, for you guys, your homework, right? You ever put your grades above God by cheating so that you get the grade you want? Okay, maybe. So in this example, these bad men, they put money specifically above God because they weren't paying their workers. But the question for us is, what stuff do we love? What stuff do we put before God? Okay? I have a list of things. The first one was cheating in school. Do we love grades more than God? Do we not give to people in need because we love money more than God? Yeah, that's a good one. Do we tend not to pay well for something because we love money? Okay, you guys probably aren't paying very many people, but me and Haley have...
every now and then I'll drop off some money in those little donation things just because I like seeing the money go in.
Yeah, that's good.
Like,
So
I guess if you think about it, I just kind of like giving.
yeah, that's good.
Like if you think about it, it's also fun to see it go in. You have to admit, those things are kind of fun.
Yeah, that's good. So, like, you guys aren't paying people right now very often, but like me and Haley pay babysitters sometimes, right? Okay, and so like if we have a babysitter over and we're like, oh, we're gonna try and not pay them as much as we can. Like we're putting stuff above people, right? Putting money above people and money above God. Okay, so do you tend to not pay something? I mean, I don't know. Like even as an older brother, sometimes my brother would help. I didn't mow lawns too. Okay, and shoveled snow was another thing I did. And if my brother helped me, I was tempted, very hardcore, tempted to like try and not pay him very much. You know what I mean? So do we pay him? Do we come up front and be like, hey, this is how much I'm going to pay you. Is that good with you? You know, that's a good way to do it. Hey, this is how much I'm going to pay you. You know, is that all right with you? So do we tend to not pay? Do we tend to gain stuff at the expense of other people? Okay, that's a good one. Do we try and gain things or money at the expense or at the cost of other people? Do you guys try to gain popularity at the expense of someone else? Like making fun of someone makes you more popular sometimes, 100%. Okay? At least it did back in the day.
Sometimes I say like light jokes, but I never mean them to be rude. I just like it's like I can't even remember, but sometimes it's like who doesn't say like a funny joke about someone wearing a bad shirt or something?
Well, yeah, but you need to think about why you do it, okay? So materialism leads to cheating, okay? It does. That's what he's saying here, okay? That doesn't mean that everyone who is tempted with materialism cheats. But when your materialistic mindset, it leads to cheating. The next thing is big, okay? And it's kind of crazy, but it shows us the gravity of this sin, okay? This is materialism leads to murder. Okay, materialism leads to murder. Look at 5 and 6. You have lived in luxury on the earth and led a life of wanton pleasure. You have fattened your own hearts for the day of slaughter. You have condemned and put to death the righteous man, and he does not resist you. Okay, the final thing that James says is extreme, and it's murder. Okay, materialism leads to murder. Okay, none of us have murdered because we want something. Okay, and I don't think any of James's audience, the people that he's writing to, I don't think any of them are murderers. Okay, but I think what he's saying is, hey, look at this mindset. This mindset of materialism, putting things above God, putting things above people too, eventually that leads to murder. And that's the same, like the materialistic attitude that these rich men have is the attitude that we have a lot. Okay? And they murder people because of it. Like sometimes we don't understand or we're not truthful with ourselves about the gravity of our own sin. And materialism is, putting stuff above God and people, that's a big sin. Okay? All of them are big sins. Right? So there's this guy, when we talk about killing for money, anybody know what kind of gun that is?
That's a Thompson M1921 Chicago typewriter.
Or for short, Tommy gun, right? So there's this guy named Buster from Chicago. Okay? This guy named Buster from Chicago, he was a hitman. Okay? And he was one of the best. And he had this MO, right? And his MO was that he would hide his weapons in instrument cases. Okay, so he tried to hide one of these in a violin case, it said. I don't think one of those would fit in a violin case, but if he did it, dang. He hid a shotgun in a guitar case, okay? And he murdered people and he'd get paid for it. Okay? So he's literally killing for money, right? He's literally killing for money. Okay, we might not be a hitman, we may not kill for money, but materialism has this end of putting stuff above people and above God so much that people aren't worth it anymore, right? And so we need to check ourselves and say, hey, am I materialistic in my mindset? Do I put stuff above God, stuff above other people? The reality is that murderers, like this guy, he put money above people, right? That's ultimately why he did what he did. So he put stuff above people. So how many times do we do that?
I never really put anything above other people. But I think about it.
All right, hey, it's all right. It's all right. Okay. Think,
I
just
thought this was one of the things where you ask and we're supposed to respond.
no, don't respond, because think about it. We all put stuff above people, whether you think you do or not. You do, and so you need to think about, where do I do that? How do I do that? How can I do better at it? Okay, I do. I put stuff above people. I put my own rest above my family sometimes. Okay, I was very near putting this knife, and there were several times I did in my own mind, above the dude that lost it. Okay, about to get real mad at him, right? Because he lost my $170 knife, right? Okay, so we all have that tendency. Okay, and the idea here is that James is showing us the gravity of this sin. Okay, materialism, putting things of the world above things of God, it not only causes us to lose rewards in heaven and to lose the stuff that we accumulate, but it also leads to sins like cheating and even murder. Okay, so we should seek to put the kingdom of God first, store up treasures in heaven rather than treasures on earth. Does that make sense? Okay, so this week, okay, 2 things that I thought of. Okay, seek to earn heavenly rewards. Like, pick out a reward that you know or something that you're going to get rewarded for by God, and be like, I'm going to try and earn a reward this week by doing this. Okay, that's a good thing to renew your mind and change your mindset of materialism. The other thing is just renewing your mind with the fact of all the stuff of the world's going to burn. Okay, because when you think about it, like when I think like this knife is going to burn, like it's going to burn. It's not going to last. In fact, in a couple of years, it's probably going to be worthless, right? Hopefully not, because I spent that much money on it, right? But it's probably not going to be worth very much in a very short amount of time, relatively speaking. Okay, and when I recognize that in my own mind, and I think of that, and I renew my mind with that, it's like, you know what? It's lost. It's not a big deal. Okay, another thing you can renew your mind with is the value of other people. Okay, the value of other people. So like, if you say, hey, this person is worth more than this sweet thing that they just broke of mine. And it's like, you know what? They broke it. It's not worth it. Like they're worth much more, right? Because are people worth more than stuff?
Yes.
Well, for 2 of you, they are. That's good. Are people worth more than stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, right? They are. And God's worth more. And heavenly rewards, I guarantee you, are going to be worth more. I guarantee you when you get to heaven, you're not going to care what kind of cool clothes you had, or what kind of cool shoes you had, or what kind of cool knife I had, or what sweet this or that I had. Okay? But when God starts handing me rewards for stuff I've done, you better believe I'm going to care about that. Right? And so that's our mindset that we need to have. Make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
All right, let's pray real quick.